Hi, Julie Leon here, part of Home Team Powered by Movement. I am here with Yaritza Ruiz from Absolute Clear Title, ready to show you what title really means. I have another wonderful guest. Her name is Yaritza Ruiz.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yaritza Ruiz. I am the owner and operator of Absolutely Clear Title, and I am here to help and strive to bring clarity and transparency to your New York State real estate transaction.
How are you this morning?
Great, Julie. How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here with you. You know what we talked.
Yes.
Um, So, just so that people understand a title agent, what exactly is a title agent and what do they do?
So, a title agent in New York State is someone who is hired to provide a service during the real estate portion of a purchase of a home or some sort of real property, right? And our job is to make sure that we're going back into history, making sure that we're clearing anything that may cause any hiccups for a person in their ownership. So, is there everyone who's ever owned it? We check it. Every violation, judgment, mortgage. These are all the historical searches that we do in order to ensure that the buyer going forward is all clear.
Wonderful. So, maybe it's a lot for someone that doesn't really understand.
Yep.
Sorry, my doorbell went off. I'm going to stop there, Ronnie, do a second and come back. So, let me hit this. Okay, so that's a mouthful, but I think maybe we should explain exactly what a title is, right? Because I think most people hear title and they're like, a title? What's a title? Like, what's that got to do with my house?
Right.
So maybe we'll explain that a
And
little
most
bit.
people think of title, they think of like the title of your car, right? So they're like, I have the title of my car, I'm the owner of this car, and if I have a loan on this car, then they have the title, right? And that's how people understand the word title. But in when you're buying a home, the word title pertains to the ownership of that home and the clarity of that ownership. So when you say title, it means I am the rightful owner. I've purchased it from the right person, and I understand all of my ownership rights and my usage rights of my property. And that's really what the umbrella of title really means, right? It's like, what's the security that you're getting being that homeowner?
Right. So what
But the biggest difference,
when
wait,
you
let me back up, right? So the biggest difference with insurance, with this type of insurance, right? Because people understand insurance like car insurance. Like if I get into a car accident, I have insurance. If my house catches fire, there's a robbery, I have home insurance, right? Life insurance if someone passes away. These are sort of the insurances that we understand just on a daily basis. But title insurance protects you from past events versus the insurance that we understand to protect us from future events. That's the biggest dichotomy.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying that. That was my next question. Um, why do you think it's so important that people go and do a really thorough title search? Like, what are some of your experiences?
Yeah. So, first, I think that it's super important to have a title search and understand the process during the home buying ordeal and experience because mainly it's one of the main insurances that's going to protect you going forward, right? It's also one of the biggest portions of your closing costs because of what the title company is responsible for collecting, like your mortgage tax when you borrow a loan. It also has to do with all of the searches and any taxes that may be due or upcoming. So when you think of your closing costs, your title bill or your title charges are a huge portion of that. And the biggest thing of why it secures you and why you should know of the service is because if there ever is a claim to your ownership, like let's say there was a grandma who owned this property and there was a grandchild that she was supposed to leave a portion of it to, but they weren't mentioned in whatever proceedings or whatever court things were done to verify, like, oh, who's the actual heirs to this grandma? If that becomes a problem or an outstanding mortgage from, let's say, two or three owners past, that title insurance policy is going to protect you.
Okay. So, you hear people, like you said, people hear insurance. And when you hear insurance, they think that it's going to be is this like an ongoing payment I'm going to have to do? Is this just a one-time upfront payment?
Yes, it is actually just a one-time payment that you pay at your closing. It's a premium that you pay, and it's based on your purchase price and your loan amount. and it's federally regulated. It's about $6 per thousand of your purchase price or your loan amount. And if you buy both of them together, you get like a little bit of a simultaneous discount. And that can be explained to you when you request a title insurance quote. But the best part, like you mentioned, is that it's only a one-time payment at your closing, and it protects you for the duration of your ownership and beyond, and your heirs if the property remains in your family.
Awesome. So that means keep the paperwork, people.
Very.
Um, what give me an example of like a worst case scenario that you had to kind of like maybe get bad news and needed to do a lot of work to clear it up.
I'm actually in the realm of that right now. Actually, a file that's closing today, and as we're speaking, I'm trying to figure out how to make this possible for this buyer. The situation is that this buyer co-signed a vehicle for their relative, and their, I guess, was non-payment. It became a judgment, and the paperwork was not properly kept to say, yes, this was released from me, I no longer owe this, or the debt was transferred to the relative and not to myself. And because of that, right now the judgment on record still looks outstanding. And the way that we protect ourselves and the home buyer and the bank as the lender is that we have to hold money, and sometimes it's double that. And right now we have a potential of having to hold $20,000 just to make sure that this judgment doesn't come back to affect the buyer later on, or the bank, if they end up stop making payments. So the situation is this: as a buyer, can you just say, oh, I have an extra $20,000 just to hold until this judgment gets cleared up? That's a problem, right? You find small things like a fence, which to most people it's like, oh, what's the big deal? I put up a fence. That could be huge and cause major delays. So definitely holding on to your paperwork. If you've ever paid anything off, it's extremely important to hold on to all your proof and any work that's ever been done on the house.
Wow. Okay. That's good to know. Um, I was going to ask you, and it kind of slipped me. When you say holding $20,000, what exactly does that mean to hold $20,000 for title?
So that means that the title company, as what's called a fiduciary agent, meaning that we're like a third party just holding on to the money for a purpose. We hold on it on into an account that is not ours personally. It belongs to the company, and we'll hold it until a certain amount of time or until proof is provided. So what would happen in this case, if we do have to hold this money, the owner currently, or the buyer, I'm sorry, has to come back and say, hey, look, here's this paperwork of the judgment being released from the county, or here's proof that I paid it and now it's going to be released. Or we have to wait until that judgment expires with the county as a judgment, because judgments last for 10 years. It has to expire, and then after a certain amount of lapse after that expiration date, then the title company can release the money. So thereby your money's just sitting in an account. It's not.
Wow. And it could take up to 10 years. Look at that. That's a lot. That's a long, long time. So who does that really affect? Does it affect just the buyer or the seller as well?
So it depends on who the judgment is against, right? So let's say you owned your house for 20 years, right? And throughout those 20 years, you might have had a credit card. It probably went into a judgment. You ended up paying it off. But that lender, whoever, let's say the credit card company or the attorney's office that was handling the judgment, didn't properly notify the county or the town to say, hey, they paid this off. This judgment is all good to go. That can be a huge problem if the seller didn't have the proper information or proof in order to remove that. So it depends on who the judgment is, and ultimately it would affect the buyer, the person going forward owning the house. That's who ultimately it would affect, because that judgment, if it's not addressed, can then tack onto the house, and it doesn't matter who owns the house.
Okay, good. So that's good for the buyer to know that it's a necessary. It's not one of those like, but why, and get a company that you can trust, right?
Exactly.
So, so is there anything else you want to share that you think maybe is important for a buyer to know?
I think that one of the biggest things that buyers should know is that this is a service that's kind of quiet and is placed under the term title, like we explained in the beginning. And overall, it's something that they should know. They should know who their agent or title company is, and that they have the right to choose who that is providing that service for them. Because if something does happen post closing, once you've already gotten everything you need from your seller and your attorney's moved on to the next transaction, your title agent's going to be the one to help you if something comes up.
Oh, look, that's important to know. It's not the lawyer, the title agent.
Mhm.
You hear that people pay, keep records,
Know everyone
just
on
do
your
your
team.
best.
Know everyone on your team. You know, if you know who your attorney is, you know who your realtor is, you know who your mortgage person is, who's your title person. Gotta know who they are.
That's right. You're the unsung hero, right?
Exactly. We're the one in the back.
You're the one that, right? Like you're the one that's gonna save me from buying a property and then later on things popping up because I've heard of stuff like
Yeah,
that.
like a water bill,
Uh,
huge. The seller didn't pay the
yeah,
water bill.
yeah, no. I'm going through my own things right here buying a house. It's horrendous. I
Okay, cool.
Yeah, absolutely. That's next. Okay. So Yaritza, so you do all this hard work, right? Why? Why did you want to do this type of work?
So I got into title insurance kind of like a trickle from being a real estate paralegal. I was a real estate paralegal for a while doing transactional work. And then I transitioned into title because I was helping lenders like yourself and the processors and underwriters getting these files clear to close, working directly with title companies. And overall, throughout the paralegal experience, the title experience, I just noticed that there was poor communication when it came to the buyers and the realtors and people understanding what the service is and why they need the service and why is the buyer coming to the closing table with a $20,000 check to the title company they've never heard of. These little experiences that I had, I wanted to change it and I wanted to get into the industry, not just to become a business owner, but to say like, hey, we need to change the way this service is understood, the way that it's paid for. Why are people not choosing this service? And that was a huge reason why I wanted to open Absolutely Clear. I wanted to empower realtors and give consumers the right to choose.
Awesome. That's a great. So this is your company,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Awesome, women in power. I love it.
Latina.
Um, I know that. Let's talk a little bit about that you do speak Spanish, right? So para que la gente sepa, si necesitan a alguien que habla español, también Yaritza habla español. No piense que somos ya más que gringa, porque no somos más que gringa, ¿verdad?
Es bien importante saber su agente de título y eso es algo que estoy haciendo ahora en la comunidad. Quiero hablar con la gente que son latinos, dejarles saber que ellos tienen gente que le quieren ayudar. And providing resources to the Latino community is huge. We need to get in front of them. We need to let them know what are their options to qualify for mortgages. Can they form their team? It is huge. And I've put myself into those circles and I pride myself on letting people know that if you're a Latino, you can own a home, even if you're scared to have a bank account. And knowing everyone in your team can put you in touch with the right people in order to help you with your individual situation. And I think the Latino community needs that more than anything right now.
Absolutely, it's trust because we're part of LORE, right? Latinos in real estate, and that's one of our biggest things, right?
Huge.
The Latin community. There's a lack of communication, a lack of knowledge, and we're here to help. So llámanos, podemos ayudarlo, comprar. Ni tiene que estar comprando casa por ahora. Si tiene
Exactly.
una pregunta o algo, llama.
Exactly.
Nosotros tratamos de ayudarnos.
Exactly. You can reach me at acleartitle.com. You can also reach me at 845-241-0060. We welcome text messages if you just want to shoot over a question. You can also follow us on our social media platforms. Handles are Absolutely Clear Title or acleartitle.com.
Yeah, you know I have my 3 questions. I got my 3 questions. Yeah, it's easy, nothing embarrassing. I promise you. I promise you. Okay, Yaritza, you ready?
Yes.
What's your favorite color?
That blue behind you is doing it for me. I love it.
Yeah, okay. All right. And what do you do in your off time or what's your passion?
Well, I have a lot of passions, but on my off time, I like to watch reality TV actually.
Oh, You still my heart. Fuji. Ratchet TV is what I call that. But okay.
Yes, Raja,
I, I,
need it.
I'm not going to pass judgment. I love you. I take it back. Uh, and what are you working on this year? What do you want to accomplish?
One of my biggest goals for this year is to provide workshops to realtors and to attorneys who actually are in the business but have no idea what title insurance is.
Awesome. You're right. I just signed papers. I knew nothing. I want the house. What do you need? And so it's good to know.
Most professionals don't, and I think it'll help them improve their customer service.
Absolutely, 100%. Well, Yaritza, it's been a pleasure. It's been a little while since I've seen you, and finally we got together. So people, pay attention, write notes, keep this in mind. When you're ready to buy, give me a call, 718-208-9746. Follow me at Slay Mortgages 365. And again, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Yaritza, for your
Thank
time.
you.
I know you're a busy lady, but we'll get together really soon.
Igual. Bye.
Bye.